scary the first times out and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the only way to really start doing it is just to do it, you know? And it was this thing that I had loved comedy for a long time, and I had been doing improv, but the idea of doing stand-up was so scary. And I had one of my very good friends who was like, you need to do stand-up. And I was like, I can't, it's so scary. And then so one day she was just like, no, tonight we're gonna go and we're gonna do it, so get ready. And she basically made me get up on stage, and it went really well. So I got hooked, I got the bug right away. I've never done heroin, but from what I've heard, I always liken it to what I hear heroin is like, because, you know, they always talk about chasing the dragon. And for me, it was like that first
Rush or whatever.
Rush, that performer's high from people laughing at a joke that I wrote and told myself was greater than anything else I'd ever experienced. So that's what I was like, well, this is what I have to do. And so from then on, it's always just been about like kind of chasing that feeling.
So I don't want to backtrack, but kind of get into it. So to me, a comedian, particularly a stand-up, exposes theirs and other people's humanity in front of an audience at the various levels. Sometimes they're making fun of it, sometimes they're making like a political point, or like, you know, there's a funny story but there's a punchline at the end that makes you have to think about something. Even if it's harsh, the truthfulness that a comedian brings to it, I wondered what it's like to jump, like you said, the first experience was great, but to jump into that fire, so to speak, and what it's like when you escape, like you were in it, it was fabulous. What's it like when you step back out of it, like at the end of a performance? I mean, you jump into this thing, you've exposed either some of your own personal thing or your made up personal thing, because we don't really know, and if you make us believe, we're going to believe. But you have to step outside of that, and you get to another part of who you are. Because I also know, I've known comedians, I had them in theater companies with me, and sometimes, I'm not speaking of yourself, sometimes on their own, they're very like down and like depressed, and like they're working out their therapy stuff on stage with everybody else. So what's it like to, you know, give that offering, so to speak, no pun intended, to the show, and then at the end of that, you sit down, or you got to leave, or you sit down and watch everybody else's sets, and what's that disconnect or connect like, and how do you travel out of that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, it can be rough, and it all depends on sort of how the set goes, because it's a real roller coaster lifestyle. You know, you can have an amazing set, and then you just feel like you're on top of the world, you know, and you sort of feel like, I can do anything now, like, this is great. But then it can go badly, and I personally, like, I do talk about my own life a lot. I make fun of myself a lot, and I sort of like let a lot hang out there. So that makes it a lot harder, because when you're being really vulnerable and you're sort of saying things that like would be like really embarrassing, but you're putting this spin on it.
Right, and some stuff you say, guys are probably like, oh my God, that girl's sharing that now, or even girls go like, wait, this guy's here, why are you talking about that?
That's definitely happened.
You know, I'm sure.
Definitely happened, and I've had just like looks on people's faces that just seem to scream out, why are you saying this? Stop, you know. And so if it doesn't go well, it hurts so much more, because the benefit of being an actor or even in an improv scene is that you do still have this barrier of like the character.
There's no third wall. You don't have that distance. And that's what I want to ask too, because you and other comics, you decide to use people in the audience. And I wonder what that's like when it backfires, because you can get some real firecracker out there like throwing stuff and like back at you and like taking it somewhere you don't want to go. Is that hard to circumvent, or, you know, if somebody gets a little out of hand?
It's always a challenge. I mean, like, hopefully you're performing in a place where there's some security, so like if somebody really gets crazy, like that'll get taken care of. I mean, I've definitely been in places where that's not been the case. I've had a man try to grab me when I was on stage once. That was horrible. But actually for me, like I would prefer somebody who's like kind of rowdy and a little more outspoken. Then sometimes they'll try to talk to an audience member, and you'll say like, oh, where are you from? And they're just like, and they just will give you nothing, and that's a lot harder to work with.
Yeah, I would assume that is. And
sometimes it goes horribly wrong, and then you just remember that that moment is now over, and then you can move on.
Right, and I wondered, like,